Marlon Brando disclosed the quartet of individuals he had affairs with. Brando American acting was revolutionized by his visceral, unadulterated performances, producing memorable characters in movies such as A Desire, A Streetcar on both The Godfather and Waterfront. His innovative approach to his profession compelled Hollywood to adopt a fresh, more genuine performance style that forever altered the film industry. As the initial Brando's professional screen rebel impact is still unknown. However, beyond there is more to his artistic legacy than personal revolution, one that confronts our comprehension of this cultural symbol and the time period in which he was born. During his lifetime, Brando kept an intricate and purposefully vague connection to his own sexuality, occasionally creating provocative remarks while cautiously avoiding final designations in a time when such sincerity could ruin even the finest renowned career. Marlon was not convinced. In sexual categories, disclosed a previous assistant who collaborated closely with the actor from the 1970s. He once said to me, "Desire is insensitive to gender, just comprehends attraction." This wasn't a political position. It was just the way he lived. Within the decades after his passing in 2004, the meticulously kept boundaries between both Brando's personal and public lives have degraded over time, enabling a more whole image of the man to come out. By means of insights from those who were aware postulated biographies, him, and the periodic verification of long-rumored connections, we've started to comprehend the entire intricacy of Brando's personal life, one that featured important relationships with males, in addition to his more well-known connections with women. The majority of individuals don't comprehend regarding Brando is that his sexual orientation was as disobedient and defying authority as his performance, which clarified his famed Thomas Henderson biographer. One moment at a time, when acknowledging same-sex attraction mattered Brando's death, refusing to play by those guidelines, even if he had to write a lot of code, questioning his veracity in vague terms and private actions. Today, we examine four important connections that reveal this obscure facet of Brando's existence. Links spanning from verified extramarital affairs to extremely personal emotional ties that resist easy classification. These connections cover the actor's life over several decades and disclose not only personal appeals, but a groundbreaking method for human connection that was as innovative as Brando's revolutionary method of acting on its own. The work of Marlon Brando relationships with males disclose more than only more chapters in his passionate past. They offer vital information, exploring the remarkable intricacy of a man who went against the grain in every area of his existence. In a time when homosexuality was still considered a psychological disorder and might immediately demolish even the most prosperous Hollywood career, and Brando's readiness to seek genuine relationships portrayed a form, irrespective of gender, of individual disobedience as important as his innovations in the workplace. These relationships weren't a byproduct of Brando's persona, but essential elements of a life led in accordance with his own regulations instead of those of society anticipations. From strong emotional ties that went beyond the norm friendship to verified sexual relations who questioned the strict sexual classifications, Brando's relationships with men shed light on more than simply their own choices, but his rejection that lasted a lifetime of fabricated restrictions on human experience. By investigating these connections with the subtlety they deserve, we obtain a fuller biography of an icon whose his public genius matched his complexity. No, I just wanted to give that a try. While, 20 years later, take a rest. Richard, the surprising connection before. Of all the disclosures about the personal life of Marlon Brando that has appeared since his passing, possibly none caused greater public astonishment than the affirmation of his succinct but intense relationship with comedian Richard Pryor in 1970s. This surprising association between two of the most boundary-breaking individuals persisted concealed for several years before being verified in 2018, not by conjecture or gossip, but from a person who was acquainted with Pryor close to the heart. The comic, indeed. This clear confirmation was provided by Jennifer Lee Pryor, an unexpected source, the widow of Richard Pryor, who replied to assertions regarding the relationship with simple acknowledgement instead of deflection or denial. The transformation of matter-of-fact confirmation, what may have been written off as turning rumors about celebrities into reality, requiring a reevaluation of both private and public identities. The music producer made the first revelation. Quincy Jones, who brought up the matter quite casually during a broad 2018 Vulture magazine interview. Regarding Brando's sexual orientation, Jones was direct in saying that Brando would anything, underscore underscore. He would underscore underscore a mailbox. Richard Pryor, James Baldwin, Marvin Gaye. Although some of these assertions were contested by property owners or stayed unverified, the reference to Pryor got a surprise confirmation. This was validated by Pryor's own spouse. In 2018, Jennifer Lee Pryor mentioned Rebecca Santos is an entertainment journalist. Instead of discounting Jones's remarks, she confirmed them, as many had anticipated, by making a declaration to TMZ and later posts on social media. She said that the scandal had not only took place, but that Pryor had been accessible discussing his sexuality with individuals that are close to him. Jennifer Lee's affirmation supplied crucial background information that was helpful frame the connection inside the Los Angeles' cultural environment in the 1970s. Instead of considering the affair as shameful or scandalous, she displayed it as a component of the unrestrained investigation that defined both men's strategy to living in that time period. Pryor, she said, was in the 1970s openly bisexual, and that Brando and he had a brief but crazy sexual connection. Santos went on. This wasn't merely verification of a one interaction, but recognition of a continuing relationship between two males who, in spite of their apparent heterosexuality partnerships, acknowledged in private wider sexual preferences. Jennifer Lee placed the affair in the context of the Hollywood's cultural moment in the 1970s, stating, "Sex and drugs were still good, was unrestricted. It was the 1970s." Explains how two well-known celebrities could participate in the activities that would have regarded as career-ending conduct only 10 years prior. The post-Stonewall, the pre-AIDS era produced a short window of where the practice of sexual exploration was popular in specific circles, especially among performers and artists who have already existed in a slightly unconventional social limits. What makes this relationship that is especially important in knowing both men is how it challenges oversimplified representations of their public personalities, while strengthening what we are aware of their disobedient methods for dealing with social norms. Pryor and Brando established careers questioning accepted norms. Brando by his groundbreaking method of action and perseverance, unconventionality. Previously, via humor that addressed the racial hypocrisy in America with unheard-of candor. The majority of fans, "I'm still not convinced, but insiders, I swear it happened," Santos said. Skepticism provides more insight into the public's strict comprehension of sexuality as opposed to the relationship itself. Individuals had put both guys are placed in heterosexual boxes according to their interactions with women in public, making it challenging to believe the evidence it ran counter to these oversimplified types. For individuals who are acquainted with both private histories of men, but the confirmation just confirmed what numerous have long suspected, that Brando and Pryor took the same stance on sexuality. Their attitude of crossing boundaries to their particular fields of expertise. Pryor's personal writings and autobiographies showed a man who disapproved of restricting labels, but Brando had produced a lot of declarations made during his career, recommending an open-minded approach to sexual attraction. The moment of their link coincided with especially pivotal moments in both men's lives, and Brando was moving away from The Godfather's career comeback and Paris's final tango, moving toward the more eccentric in his final years. Pryor was changing from a comparatively well-known comedian into the he would develop a groundbreaking voice with recordings such as that Niggers Crazy and Drugs Were Still Good in Centennial Niger. It was the 1970s, and sex was free. A straightforward sentence sums up the culture. Circumstances that allowed them to have an affair. A time when conventional borders were being interrogated around America's society, especially in the Los Angeles' creative communities and for men like Pryor and Brando in New York who had always objected to social limitations. This time period provided unparalleled liberty to pursue genuine wants free from the strict classification that was used in earlier decades demanded. A brief account of the Brando-Pryor scandal as it seems to have been signifies more than merely an unexpected celebrity relationship. It shows how two cultural leaders negotiated the difficult sexuality and identity terrain during a period of transition in American history, selecting genuine personal remark regarding the security of conformity, as they had previously during the course of their groundbreaking careers. People claim that racing is risky, but I'll risk my life on the racetrack. James Dean, believed to be obsessed, rumored, but never verified. Few Hollywood connections have produced more ongoing conjecture rather than the purported relationship between Marlon Brando and early in the 1950s. James Dean Brando himself never verified it, and impossible to confirm following Dean's premature demise in 1955. This rumored relationship has remained stable throughout time. Position in Hollywood legend, less due to tangible proof rather than due to the powerful psychological dynamic that indicates a pair of the most powerful rebels. Their lives' notable film that overlapped in the early 1950s. Margaret Collins was a historian. Crucial period in American film history with Brando is already recognized as the most promising fresh talent in the industry pursuing desire. A Streetcar, while Dean continued to struggle for his breakthrough position that would accompany 1955's East of Eden. The timing produced an important disparity in power. Brando at 30 was already a life-changing age in American acting, but at the age of 24, Dean was still trying to get his talent recognized. This professional discrepancy was well-earned. Allegedly served as the cornerstone of an intricate personal relationship that several biographers have described both as manipulation and mentoring. A number of according to biographers, Brando dominated Dean's sexual and emotional development as a component of Collins had a perverse mentorship connection. Proceeded. Based on these reports, what started out as professional awe on Dean's role developed into something greater, passionate and intimate, with Brando purportedly acknowledging and taking advantage of he is the object of Dean's interest. The majority of stories about their relationship are Dean's well-documented interest in Brando. Colleagues and friends from this time frequently characterized Dean's nearly compulsive research into Brando's acting style, individuality, and public image. An impact so declared that from the beginning of Dean's career, critics regularly disregarded him as just a copycat of Brando instead of an unique talent. Dean was said infatuated with Brando, and Brando apparently played with him, noted Collins. Several sources from this period in which Dean was regarded as speaking nonstop Marlon Brando, examining his performances with extraordinary vigor and even embracing elements of his speech patterns and behaviors. What is still up for debate is whether Brando did the same interest in any sincere manner or just utilized it to exert control over a minor actor who looked up to him. One of the most commonly referenced literature about the relationship is a lifelong buddy of Brando. Carlo Fier, Brando's roommate during this time frame, and subsequently wrote about observing how the two interact actors. Though never specifically verifying a sexual connection, Fiore outlined situations that indicated uncommon closeness and emotional intensity. In particular, Dean's he reflected by using Dean as a mirror. His own turmoil. This finding credited to a modern person who was aware of both males are able to catch the psychological dynamism, as the majority of biographers have highlighted that any physical connection could have been present. The emotional bond was typified by narcissism on Brando's involvement and urgent requirement for Dean's approval. The absence of conclusive evidence hasn't stopped almost each and every biographer of either man from about the alleged romance.